The Carabao Cup prize money. This may be a stat that surprises you, but guess how much the prize money is for the Carabao Cup this year? £100,000. Yes, that is right. Less than many players' weekly wages. That is the price for the Carabao Cup. Now, what this does is beg the question, is this whole competition, and obviously not just the Carabao Cup, but the League Cup, is this competition a complete and utter waste of time? Reese, let's kick things off. Let's look at some of the recent winners and discuss this ridiculously low, in the context of football in this day and age, ridiculously low prize money.
Yes. £100,000 is definitely, wouldn't be enough to probably keep the lights on in some of these Premier League stars' houses for a week. So it's insanely low, which does surprise me. But it's actually probably my favourite knockout tournament of the lot, more than the Champions League and the FA Cup. I'll get into that in just a minute. Yeah, it's quite shocking, really. And, the teams consistently criticise it, despite the fact that it's the top 6 teams that tend to win it the majority of the time. It is a shame that it is so low, and I think that's why it's getting neglected. And obviously, it requires probably a new incentive, which is obviously money, to encourage teams to want to play in it. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that prize money, and is that the sole reason you think the big 6 in particular are treating it like it's worthless?
Yeah, I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps at the end of the day. And what is interesting is we know now the Carabao Cup fixtures come around every time, and the reality is most of the big teams, top 6, etc., not even the top 6. I mean, literally near enough. It feels every single team in the Premier League will just rest players and rotate. Now, on the one hand, yes, you can argue that's the schedule, that's the fixture build-up, etc., and that argument does make sense. But if teams, let's say, I'm going to just dig out a random team in the Prem, but let's say, a Crystal Palace as an example, a team who we've seen can push up a bit higher the table, but it always feels like they're mid-table, right? To me, the Carabao Cup represents an opportunity to go on a run, build your confidence, get the fans buzzing, and maybe get the fans a trip to Wembley. So to me, some of these mid-tier, maybe Prem teams should, in my opinion, be treating the Carabao Cup and the League Cup, whatever brand it's under, as a big opportunity for the football club.
This is the thing, is like you're getting mid-table teams not even trying.
Yeah,
that's to me is such a sorry state, because I remember a few years ago, I think it was Bournemouth, they rested a lot of their players in a Carabao Cup game, to focus on the league. It's like, but it's September, October. Yeah. You're not going to finish higher than 8th anyway, probably. Yes, but the issue is you probably win a couple of £1 million more for the position you go up in the league. And they neglected it, and you think, but you win that, you're in with a good chance of it. Because if the big teams are going to rest players or not take it as seriously, it's up for grabs.
Yeah.
And they just neglect it. And I think that's such a shame. And it's wrong. It's wrong. I know that the fixture list is mad now, and the fixture list is mad because clubs have to make their money. But why neglect it? I think it's a beautiful trophy, the way it looks as well.
Yeah.
But you've got a genuine chance. I mean, look at Swansea fans. Would they take where they are right now, knowing they've got that Carabao Cup win from 2013, or would they rather be sitting 15th in the Premier League right now, and that's where they've fluctuated around for the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think that's a good debate, actually. I think some fans would. I think you could probably split fans on that in general, but you're right. You're always going to remember that time you won the Carabao. You won the League Cup. You're not always going to remember that time you finished 15th in the Premier League for a third time in a row. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. Other than Swansea's first season in the Premier League, right, and probably their last because they went down. Do they remember every position they finished? Most Swansea fans probably don't, even the most die-hard. Probably the 2014-15 season, that was pretty decent, or the 2013-14, but Do they remember exactly where they finished? No, they probably go, oh, I remember the 12-13 season, though, when we beat Bradford in the final. Of
Yeah.
course you do. Of course you do. It's much more important. You know, at the end of the day, yes, money talks, but you can't earn money if you don't win trophies, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it raises, maybe some people disagree, but it raises the prestige of winning that competition, and there is the history and everything that goes with it. And I still, from a Chelsea perspective, like last season, winning that would have been so big for us. Yes, we bottled it, as we know, the £1 billion bottle jobs term came from that, but winning trophies at the end of the day is what you measure success on. And despite the money, there is the prestige that comes with it. I think as well, one thing that we're neglecting in this conversation is the European access through this tournament. That's a big factor actually that should be considered more. Obviously, each now you do get some form of European access with both the League Cup and the FA Cup. So that, I guess you could argue, is a massive incentive outside of the low cash prize you get. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon with big clubs resting rotating their squad and doing it this way. In terms of the structure of the Carabao Cup in its current form as well, you've obviously got the situation of penalties. So the good thing is they've addressed the extra time issue, so it goes straight to penalties. But surely this again should further incentivize the smaller clubs, because you're like, if we get a shithouse draw, a Premier League club, we're going to pens. We saw it recently with like the Preston Fulham game, one of the best penalty shootouts ever. But these so-called smaller clubs who, a cup run could do so many favors for, could literally, get lucky, get a goal, draw, whatever, and win on pens. So surely it should incentivize these clubs more. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what doesn't help is obviously the games are played midweek. I know that they've tried to, even sort of adapt the rules accordingly to make sure that the early rounds you stick to your region. Because let's be honest, it's pretty ridiculous if Carlisle have to play Plymouth, for example, on a Tuesday night. That's a long way to go with limited funds as it is playing a cup game. So if it's on a Saturday, it's completely different. But you can't play it on a Saturday because you've already got football games already there. It's probably one of the reasons the FA Cup is probably still passing by, because it plays on a weekend. So it's a hard one for them to do. I agree, though, they should want to go for it. Preston are happy that they knocked Fulham out. As long as that penalty shootout it's a great result for them. But for Fulham, they've had to go up to Lancashire on the Tuesday night, and then come back. So it is tiring. People don't want to admit that, but it is tiring if you're doing that. So there needs to be more of an incentive for this competition, I think. And how they do that, I don't know. I think it's in a very lose-lose situation at the moment.
Yeah, and I think although it's kind of funny because we're sat here saying big teams don't care, and I guess you could imply that with obviously big teams rotating. But the simple reality is, if you look at the previous winners for the last 10 years, it leaves a lot to be desired if you're a smaller team. And we obviously know Man City won it 4 years in a row, and that was a big part of Pep, Pep's domination in the league. And actually, you could argue again, maybe some people say City rotated, etc. But I think that's a good example of where if a big team does take it seriously, they can go down in the history books. City were dominant in that era. They weren't just winning League Cups, of course, but it's a real opportunity to further the club. Confidence, history, stats, get the fans on side, get the owners on side. And look, if we just quickly read off, so I know we're saying big teams don't care, but funnily enough, in the last, in the last 10 years, these are the winners of the Carabao Cup. Liverpool, Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Man City, Man City, Man City, Man United, Man City, and Chelsea. So only 4 different teams in the last 10 years have won it. All of them are regarded as big tides. So for everything we're saying, actually, that kind of suggests that the big teams do care, even though they're rotating.
Well, this is it. It is a strange one because, yeah, they've dominated it. First things first, it's a good opportunity for teams, especially when they're starting to get success. to start building out that success. You won't deny that, when you were first taken over, how that first League Cup win in 2005 meant so much, because it was the first. I know they'd won a few trophies beforehand, but that was the catalyst for building on. You'd even argue under Vialli that was a catalyst for him. Man City, yes, they'd won the league then and an FA Cup, but they hadn't won as much by then. So again, the League Cup win game the catalyst. Liverpool, knowing that they were competing with this ridiculous Man City side, probably knew that and the FA Cup were their two best bets for silverware. So it seems to become the trophy where if you're looking to build, or a team goes, well, if we're not going to win anything else, we're going to have to go for it. Hint, hint, Arteta, maybe go for it because you haven't won anything else. You've only won a new manager bounce FA Cup, but that's another story. It's a good foundation starter. Even if you look from the 60s, Don Revie's Leeds, I think that was the first trophy they won. Went on to lay the foundation of success. Brian Clough won the trophy 4 times, and I think he'd done a back-to-back, won it twice, a few years didn't do it, won it again. Spurs have won it a lot. It's a good standard setter, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I guess the flip side is when you look across Europe and people who aren't fans of the League Cup will obviously make this argument. I think the likes of Italy, France, Spain, a lot of these big European countries have ultimately scrapped their version of the League Cup. So does that give us, and particularly, again, more of an argument for the bigger sides in the Prem playing in Europe, does that give these teams an advantage or not? Well, sorry, these teams from these countries an advantage if they're playing less games? Or does it not really matter because it's earlier in the season?
Well, I mean, City and Liverpool and Chelsea have won the Champions League in the last, 5, 6 years. So that's 3 English teams winning it. Obviously, Real Madrid have been the dominant side in all of this. An Italian side hasn't won it. I know Bayern Munich won it as well, didn't they, into it? So it's not necessarily the be all and end all, in my opinion. It doesn't seem to change the attitude, but I think it's actually going to give the big 6 in this country leverage to argue that, well, they don't have one, so why should we have one?
Yeah. I guess as well, the point maybe we've missed is we're saying the big clubs rotate, but by the default of everything we've talked about with the way the ownership and everything, the top teams dominating is going, and I guess the inequality in the Premier League, you could just simply make the case is that the second teams of the top sides are just better by default, and that's why they're winning it. Maybe that's the reason that we're missing, but I don't know. It's a strange one with the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I do like it. Look, I really enjoy it. I think, yes, it's been dominated by the big 6, but I think a lot of the time is because they probably thought they weren't going to win anything else. You genuinely get more surprise teams getting to the semi-finals, at least. We had Fulham last year. We had Villa in the final a few years ago. Swansea, Bradford, as we've mentioned. We've had Southampton in a final as well. Teams get there, and the semi-final I love as well with the 2 legs, because there's so much, there's that jeopardy on the line of home and away, and I think that's so good. And it's not at Wembley, the semi-final as well, so it makes that Wembley final much more important. It's a great trophy to be in. I think it is so much better. I think it is more exciting, but I do fear it is on its last legs.
And is there a way we'd improve it? Because I thought the penalty thing, although people don't like it, I think the penalty rule where games just go straight to pens, I think helps it, because one, it deals with the fixture congestion. It deals not the fixture congestion, but doesn't deal with replays, makes the game shorter, and actually makes the game more likely for an upset.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that helps, going straight to penalties in the early rounds. Maybe if they want to start by maybe making the semi-final 1 leg, I don't know, and maybe do it in a neutral ground somewhere, neutral ground. That could be a possibility. Obviously, increase the prize money is obviously an obvious one. Maybe, I think the winner of that already takes a place in Europe from a team in the league or something, and it sort of moves everyone else down. I think that's a good idea. Maybe, and I think that should stay, or maybe try and enhance that a little bit further. Maybe the team, I'm not sure if the team has to qualify, I can't quite remember, but maybe they go straight through. I don't know. I don't see it though. I do think this is in a bit of jeopardy at the moment. I think the FA Cup will be targeted next. Don't give me that it's been around for 100 odd years crap. Like, don't give me that rubbish. Marriage has been around for centuries, but you couldn't divorce until the 1850s. So things do change. I think if you take the League Cup out, it will add value to the FA Cup because there's one less trophy on offer. That's the thinking of that, but I would rather not lose it.
Yeah, well, that was the ultimate question, I guess, to conclude this. Do we think it should be scrapped? Because there has been calls for it to be scrapped. We've seen it in Europe. I'll answer first. I don't think it should be scrapped. Irrespective of what we said, the fact that big teams are winning it still, and only 4 big teams have won it in the last 10 years, I think does add to the prestige of winning it.
Well, give them an option to enter. If they don't want to enter, then it would be all up for grabs, wouldn't it? Because everyone's going to be on a much more... If the top 6 say no, or the teams in Europe say no, everyone else can win it. It'll be much more interesting. Makes it... You'll give something to it then. And you'll watch when they see everyone else winning it and enjoying it, they'll soon decide they want to come back.
Yeah. But ultimately, I think a trophy is as good as... The prestige of a trophy is as good as the winners. So if every year this trophy was won by a championship side, suddenly the prestige would go down because people are like, oh, no one cares. But the fact you've got Liverpool, United, City, Chelsea winning it for the last decade, I think does add to the prestige. And I think if a championship side or someone, as I said, not digging out Palace, but let's say a Palace or, West Ham, maybe West Ham won Europe, but a team like that who's maybe mid-table goes and wins it, I think it's a massive, massive deal. So for me, I would absolutely not scrap it. I'd probably just try and increase the prize money a little bit. And as you said, change the incentives around Europe to maybe get it a little bit better. But yeah, on anything to add from your side, Reece, or would you 100% keep it?
Keep it. Keep it. I know the fixtures are worse, but keep it. It's much more fun. You can easily introduce ways to make it more interesting and maybe more flexible. So I would keep it. I think it'd be a shame to lose it, but I understand that, yeah, like at the end of the day, tradition doesn't matter in many aspects because it's more about evolution. So I think it will be gone.
I think another point just to finalise on as well, actually, I think it adds a good dynamic for some fans who maybe don't have season tickets, because typically the Carabao Cup prices are cheaper as well. So it gives potential fans access who maybe couldn't go to a game, don't have a season ticket. It does give them a cheaper way to go to a game. So there's another benefit. So we are absolutely in agreement. Keep the Carabao Cup or the League Cup, whatever brand wants to take it over next. But what do you guys think? Do you want to scrap it? Would you love to see your team go on and win it? Maybe even get into Europe as a result. Let us know your thoughts. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.